we'll just kick off with some music. I'm not going to play the video just yet. I've sort of lined up John and Shirley to do the first piece of music to get us started. And they're going to play Bagpipers.
If you want to join in with us, I'm going to count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, but not that fast. Play it through 3 times. Sally, your thumbs up? Yep, okay. Right, so Bagpipers. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I just wanted to go into some club history. And I was having a chat with Jenny Coxon on the phone the other day, and I asked her to talk about some of the early days. So, Jenny, are you up for saying a few things about the early days?
Yeah, well, I can't go back to the very earliest days. I think John will be able to do that because were you at the first events at Glebe House in Probus, John? I didn't go to those, but in 1962, I think it was, the band I was playing with, we were at Folk Festival in Derbyshire, at Stainsby, near Chesterfield, and I'm a dulcimer, of course, and the lady who was there came up and had a chat with me. Turned out to be Jeanette Hughes, and Jeanette and I had a long talk because we'd both joined the Nonsuch Club when it was set up at Probus, although we'd not actually been down there. And we thought, because nothing much had happened in the 2 years since it was started, we'd try and get it going again. So Jeanette really did all the hard work, and she set up the first Nonsuch weekend at Cromford in Derbyshire. And at that we did all the business of kind of dissolving the first Nonsuch and then redoing it sort of officially. So we had a weekend at Cromford for 2 years, and then Cromford was just too full to hold all of us. So we then moved on to Hope, not far away, also in Derbyshire, and we were there also for a few years before we moved to Lord Abbey. So the annual weekends have gone on for a long time, and just by chance, when Sally phoned me up about a fortnight beforehand, I'd been playing these VHS cassettes, which somebody did, of the 2 weekends that we had at Hope. Did anybody else have these? Or know who did them? Because I don't know, can't remember who did them or who gave them to me. One was Hope 94, and the other was Hope 95. Any clues? No?
I don't know about video. I know that Fred Woodley did take videos, so it might have been Fred. I know that Dave Clifford took audios of some of those early, but I don't know that he did any videos.
No. Well, I don't know who did those because it's such a long time ago. I can't remember who gave them to me or who did them. But that was how the club started. Well, it had sort of 2 starts, really, and went on from strength to strength. And we were at Lawns for probably about 15 years, I think, something like that, before we moved again. And in 2008, I did an article about the dulcimer for Living Tradition magazine, which was called Rocketing to Relative Obscurity, which was a phrase I pinched from Nick Blanton in the States. So it's sort of about the history of the dulcimer and trying to get more people in the UK interested in it who might never have come across it. And I think the year after that, I actually did a sort of history of the first 15 years of Nonsuch, which I might have sent in to Nonsuch News, but I don't think it was ever published because around about that time or the year after, we lost Jim Cooser and we lost Roger Nicholson. So all the next 4 issues, I think, were full of tributes to both of them because they both played a very important role in the early years of the club and really inspired many players on both the hammered dulcimer and the mountain dulcimer, respectively. So that's a bit about the early years.
Just wanted to say about Jeanette Hughes as well, because I know she was talking to you, because she was also talking to me early on, and I know that she really organised that first weekend.
Yeah, she did, yeah.
But she then also sort of went on to be, I think she was the first membership secretary. I can't really remember who did what. I know I did the newsletter for, a couple of years anyway, but yeah, she was, if without her, it probably wouldn't have happened. So
no, she did all the hard work after I'd met her at Stainsby.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenny.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything? I mean, we'll have a chance for other people to add more as we go through, but if anybody wants to make a comment on that, then John Rawlinson's waving his hand.
Well, only just to throw in another name, which is a neighbour of mine who died some years ago, but although I wasn't part of Nonsuch at the time, I think he was a part at the beginning. He was a hammer dulcimer player, Ian Hay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me, actually, I've still got about 3 of Ian Hay's accompaniment books, which I used to bring along to weekends because Ian passed them all on to me, and most of them sold, but there's still a few left if anybody's interested.
Yes, I have one of those books, Jenny, and they're very, very good. He's done them very, very carefully and very methodically. Very, very worth having. Lovely man he was, lovely man.
Yeah.
John Crocker's waving his hand. If you can turn your sound back on, because I can't hear you.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are now. Thank you.
Just to say that Ian Hay was actually in the very first discussion of a club when we discussed it at the back of Probus in 1989.
Yeah.
So he was there at the very beginning. He was also there at the previous Probus meets we had. So he really was a beginner nonsucher.
Yeah. Thanks, John. I think we maybe want to do another tune. I've sort of put a putative order, and my putative order was the next one would be, who have I got down? Bouffards, thank you. I'm glad somebody could tell me what I put down. So that was Pete Bromwich. Pete?
Okay, yeah. I won't do a big long introduction because we don't want to get I don't want to get told off. But I would just say I think the club is fantastic. I think the way it's developed over the years has been brilliant, and I think the last 2-3 years, getting through what we've got through, I think the club has been fantastic. Using this new technology that we're all using now, we're all used to it. We're all used to playing sessions with it. I think it's marvellous, and all of the weekends, festivals, and things like that the club has organised have just been fantastic. So, Bouffards. 3 times. I'll try and play it nice and slowly. I suppose I shouldn't I, doing the slow jams, but here we go.
thank you, Peter. And I can remember doing that in one of the Hope events, I think, when we were taught that, one of the workshops. And I can't remember the guy's name who taught it, but there we go. That's just my memory failing. But so I think the club's been playing that for a long time.
Sally,
Yes?
I lay claim to introducing that to the club at Hope. It's on the tape that John Shaw and I made.
Right.
That was the very first Hope.
Well, maybe it was the second Hope. I can't think of the guy's name who taught us like a harmony part to it. Glenn Wardle taught us a harmony part, but maybe that was the year after. I don't know.
Glenn Wardle and I went to France the year we formed the first Nonsuch, and we both learnt the tune there in France.
Right. So that's where it's come from. Yeah.
Of course, Glenn was just up the road from Bristol. He was part of the group that formed the first Nonsuch.
Mm. Great. John, do you want to say anything else about the early days?
Just, it was all very, very exciting. I mean, when we first went down to Provost, to see 7 hammered dulcimers laid on top of a billiard table with its covered on, I never knew there were that many hammered dulcimers in existence. It was amazing to see them all there. And of course, then Jim turned up with McLean and there were another 2 dulcimers. It was mind-blowing. And then, of course, if you never experienced the joys of joining in one of Jim's master classes, you can't really call yourself a hammered dulcimer player. They truly were traumatic. And I'm not exaggerating. I was physically sick after one of them.
Yeah. I know. I heard a story of one lady who, at the early probuses, was sort of left the room crying because she was just so nervous about it. So Jim was a great guy, and you know, if you could keep up with him, he was a great teacher. But I think some beginners struggled, you know. But then Roger Frood was a great beginner teacher, and he taught beginners, you know, all the way through when we were running workshops, right from the beginning through to the lawn events. So, you know, until he moved to France, he was, you know, a very great contributor to the club, really.
And then, of course, the other major thing was suddenly somebody called Fred Woodley turning up on the scene. That really threw the cat amongst the pigeons because he played the dulcimer in the most peculiar way, and he made them the same as his grandfather had made them. He still is a great guy.
Yeah. He's a bit deaf, otherwise he would probably been on the call, but he's very deaf now, so he would have struggled to hear, you know, which is a bit of a shame, but yeah. And I think Fred turned up on about the second the second year. I think he came.
Yeah, I think he brought his brother with him, didn't he, Sid?
Yes, he did, yeah. Shall we have another tune? How about some Mountain Dulcimer? And from Ireland, if William would like to do the Star of the County Down. For those of you with a Mountain Dulcimer, then you just need to put a capo on to play along with William.
Hello, Sally.
Hi.
It's a capo. Let's call it a capo here, yeah?
Sorry.
Karen Douglas might call it a capo, but you know, over here we do capos.
Yeah.
And I would just second what Pete has said about the club and about the last couple of years. I mean, had it not been for Zoom in the last couple of years, I probably wouldn't be able to say that I know almost all of the people on the screen here. But I won't reminisce, Sally, because I don't go back very far, as you know. But one thing I will say, apart from the initial meeting with John Crocker at Halsey in 2018, when I thought, despite meeting John, that I might join the club anyway, I came back to the autumn gathering in Malvern. And if you remember, Sally, my flight to Bristol was delayed, with the result that I missed the direct train from Bristol to, well, it was passing through Malvern on its way to Worcester, I think. So, long story short, it took me 3 trains, Belfast to Newport, which had me in Wales, and I had never intended to go to Wales, then Newport to Hereford, and then the last train was cancelled, so I ended up in a coach. But all the while, Sally, you were texting me, and you were good enough to keep salad in the fridge for when I arrived at Malvern. So I thank you for that. Star of the County Down, in E minor, written by Cathal McGarley, Donegal, round about 1900. In Banbridge town in the County Down, one morning last July, from Bowling Green came a sweet Colleen, and she smiled as she passed me by. She looked so sweet from her 2 bare feet to the sheen of her nut brown hair. Such a coaxing elf, sure I shook myself for to see I was really there. From Bantry Bay down to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no maid I've seen like the brown Colleen that I met in the County Down. As she onward sped, sure I scratched my head, and I looked with a feeling rare. And I says I, to a passer-by, who's the maid with the nut brown hair? He smiled at me and he said, says he, "It's of Ireland's crime. Young Rosie McCann from the banks of the Banks, she's the star of the County Down. From Bantry Bay down to Derry Quay, from Galway to Dublin town, no maid I've seen like the poor Colleen that I met in the County Down." At the harvest fair she'll be surely there, and I'll dress in my Sunday clothes, with my shoes shone bright and my hat cocked right, for a smile from my nut brown rose. No pipe I'll smoke, no horse I'll yoke, till my plough turns rust-coloured brown, till the smiling bride by my own fireside sits the star of the County Down. From Bantry Bay down to Derry Quay, from Galway to Dublin town, no maid I've seen like the brown Colleen that I met in the County Down.
Thank you very much, William. That was great. Yes, I do remember. It was actually Facebook Messenger. We were messaging each other because I knew you on Facebook. I didn't actually have any other contact details for you. So it was Facebook Messenger, of all things, that got us communicating when you hadn't arrived. Because those of you who've been to Malvern might remember, because it would have been dark and the front door was locked because they locked the front door at 5 or 6 or something. And so I was worried William wouldn't be able to get into the building without quite precise instructions. So
When
yeah.
I finally got there, I couldn't find my way in, Sally. But you were kind enough to come out. Thank you. I'll always remember you for that. Thank you.
Okay. I was just chatting also to Denise, who was perhaps not one of the earliest members, but was there pretty early on, and playing a Santori. And I just wondered if Denise wanted to say a few words about the early days. She there? Okay, well, perhaps we'll come back to Denise later. Somebody else that I just feel indebted to are the people who organised Probus in those early days, Dave and Pauline Smart. They gave us their email, not their email list, they wouldn't have had an email list. They gave us their address list. That's better. And so without that, we probably wouldn't have got in touch with so many people. And I think in these days, you wouldn't have got away with it because of GDPR, but it was quite a godsend. But of course, that did mean that because they were at the other end of the country, they didn't get people coming to their event anymore, and it just stopped when we started. So that's a bit of a shame.
Sally, can you hear us now?
Yes, we can.
Brilliant. Okay. That was a technology thing of some kind. Do you want us to carry on with what we were going to do? Or
yes, please. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Technology works at last. So I'm Denise. This is Nick, for those that don't know us here. And so Sally asked us to join in with some of our impressions of Nonsuch from the late 1990s. So we put our heads together and have put some thoughts down. And we thought right back to, how did we find the club? So we were very lucky that we came across the club online on one of its early forms of its website when we were in a state of quite some despair because we didn't know how to tune our instrument, the Sandori that Sally mentioned. Both of us had been captivated by the sort of enchanting sounds of hatbrets in Germany and Sandoris in Greece back in the 70s. And years later, in the early 1990s, we were on holiday in Crete and we saw one in a shop and bought it, as you do. And it was quite a challenge. It had 110 strings. It's got 110 strings, so it was, I think, a great beast to try and tune. And we had no idea how to do it properly ourselves, and it totally defeated our local piano tuner. The person it didn't defeat, we've already mentioned him this evening, Fred Woodley. We took it along to the first event we went to at Lawn Abbey, sort of late-ish 1990s. And bless him, Fred patiently spent many hours with us, teaching us how to tune it, showing us how to tune it himself, showing us how to do it so we wouldn't have to do it again afterwards. We could do it ourselves, all that sort of thing. And it was just amazing to sort of be so welcomed into the club like that and helped. And looking back at those days now, it was just so great. There seemed to be such a wealth of opportunities to meet up with people, explore interests, and in the margins of the actual main sort of gathering. And so joining the club gave us the chance to find many new friends and also share our love of dulcimers, hatbrets, sandoris, etc., with fellow enthusiasts. Many of you we still recognise here today. Hi, everyone. And so it was the sort of generosity of spirit that we sort of were thinking back on, and that welcoming and encouragement of newbies like us, and that shared passion for dulcimers of all sorts, different kinds of instruments from different traditions, different kinds of mountain dulcimers and everything, just all brought together with great sort of enthusiasm and energy. And we think that's one of the sort of real strengths of the club itself, continuing right on through to now, as Pete has just said. But back in the day, we were surprised and delighted that the club also brought us into the world of really leading performers and world-famous players. We've all just been mentioning now. And they were so sort of engaged, and it wasn't at all remote and uninterested, us with our little instrument. They really were generous and helpful and genuinely hands-on and accessible to us as these sort of strange people that just joined the club. And there are millions of them. I think quite a few have already been mentioned, but the people we also jotted down were, of course, Jim Kuza, David Kettlewell, who we were at Halsey with one time in the early days, Roger Nicholson, Ian Hay, Roger Frood. Those people had huge influence on us and really got us going and started and developed our desire to keep playing and keep going with the club back in those days. And of course, couldn't fail to mention John and John. So John Shaw, sadly now gone, but John Crocker, who's still there and here to now. So thank you, everybody. And we remember, we're thinking about, what all these sort of exhortations that people were kept telling us when we were there and trying to learn. Give it some welly was one expression we had. And the other one was, don't worry if you hit a wrong note, just make sure you hit it at the right time. And those sort of maxims have sort of kept us going over the years. Then a final thought we had, sort of moving forward a few years, was Sally organised a trip for us to go and see the Santur player, Shiv Kumar Sharma in Birmingham. And we were talking to his son afterwards, and he asked us if we had our own guru. And of course, we don't have a guru as such, but we're really thinking about gurus in our lives. We're very pleased that we actually found your club, our club, and met all you wonderful people, and all played together, so everyone's a guru. That's it, folks.
Thank you. And I just want to say we've got a couple of US members on here, Sue Hengelsberg and Karen Bugler. I don't know if either of you want to say anything. You don't have to, but if you'd like to say anything about, how you joined the club, that would be nice.
Well, this is Sue here.
Hi.
Hi. I participated in the Malvern week with the Dulcimer Club and CWA, and I was blown away. Everyone there was so kind and wonderful and open and educating, and I had a wonderful time. And I thought about joining Nonsuch, but I just didn't get around to it until the pandemic. And I've been going in and out of their sessions for the last year. And thank you again for being so welcoming and instructive and caring and sharing.
I'll second that. I joined probably in 2017 when Hillary asked me to come on board and teach a few workshops at Halsey. And everybody was so welcoming and kind. I had a blast with the beginners, and I knew that I had to be a member because I wanted to stay in touch with everyone. And I was thrilled when I was invited back again for the weekend in 2019. I taught a full slate of beginner workshops, and I was there with two of my U.S. heroes, Ann Lowe, who was my very first Dulcimer teacher, and Stephen Seifert, who is somebody who inspires our playing daily. I also thought I would never see people again because I didn't know when I'd get overseas. And sure enough, one of the silver linings to the pandemic was this connection online. And I even taught one class on chords, I think, during the pandemic virtually. So as I've said to some folks, I've seen more of you than I ever thought I'd see in my life. And it's an absolute pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you. And I think having, some overseas members really adds to the sort of breadth and, involvement really from our point of view. It just adds something to the club that we're not just UK, but we've got US and European members. And actually we've even got one Australian member. So, that's really lovely. Right, I'm going to move on because time is getting away from us a bit. I'm going to ask Jeff to play the quick step from the Battle of Prague, and then after that, I'm just giving a warning. I think we'll do the video. So just
they're all desperate to watch the video now. Oh dear. Right, I shall have to speak very, very quickly in that case. And hi, it's lovely to see so many friends and colleagues and people who I haven't seen for ages in many cases here. Lovely to see you all. I'm a relative newcomer to the club. I think I joined sometime in the 2000s. And two quick memories. One, actually, talking about Nick and Denise, I went to they live in Cheltenham, which is not a million miles away from me, and I actually went to see a committee meeting. I wasn't allowed in the committee meeting, you understand, that was far too grand. But around the committee meeting, they actually had playing in those days. And I remember, Nick and Denise live in a perfectly sensible sized house, but I can remember it well being absolutely filled with Jim Cusa, in every sense, sound-wise and physically. And that was very inspiring. The second thing was that actually the first time we came across you all at Laund, Anne, hello Anne, sitting in the corner, Anne booked me in as a wedding anniversary present. So there you are. We came to Laund for the very first time as a gift, and it's a gift that's kept giving. So thank you very much indeed, Nonsuch. Anyway, let's get on and play something. We're going to play a quick step from the Battle of Prague, and I've chosen this one because it's from John Shaw's repertoire. It's one that John Shaw brought to us, and I suspect he may have played it both with the Mountain Dulcimers and the Hammered Dulcimers. My difficulty and the controversy in this is which speed do you do it at? Do you do it pell-mell and get all the Hammered Dulcimer people satisfied, or do you play it relatively sedately for the Mountain Dulcimers? We'll go somewhere in the middle, shall we? Are you okay for quick step from the Battle of Prague after 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Quick step to the Battle of Prague, ladies. Minus pick. having to use my fingernails from the second time round.
Excellent. That was
It happens.
good. I haven't actually played that on the Hammer Dulcimer before, and I've obviously absorbed it through my brain, so could join in with that one. So that was good.
Allie, can I just add one more thing? It's a quick thing. Jeff was the person who made sure we Americans had dulcimers to play when we came over. And it was an extra kindness that I'll never forget. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Karen. You played it beautifully and talked beautifully, so we benefited.
Yeah. And Jeff was chair for a few years. I can't remember exactly when it was. Was it early 2000s, Jeff? But he was a great chairman as well, so yeah. Right, so we hope you might want to join in with Nonsuch. You don't have to. Those of you on Mountain Dolls will have to retune to DAC, but, you know, so this is the preview. So I'm over to John Warbrick.
Well, I hope you like it.
it's fabulous.
Zoom does horrible things to videos. Actually, that video is going to go live on YouTube in 3 minutes, all by itself. So if you want to go and watch it in slightly better fidelity, you'll be able to do that later on. It'll be on the club's YouTube channel. But thank you to everybody who contributed. It was fun to put together.
And I'd just like to say a big thank you to John for spending all that time working on it. And I have to say, it was quite a labour because stuff was coming in dribs and drabs, and people saying, I'll send something, and I'm afraid I'm guilty of that. I sort of left it till quite the last minute as well. So
he also had to stand on stage and be stared at by about 50 hammered dulcimer and mountain dulcimer players, Sally, didn't he? Pretending to smile.
Yeah. Amanda, you've got your hand up. Is that from...
Yeah, I just thought that, talking about the club, that you've been a very important part of it for a very long time, made a very big contribution. And my main memories are doing workshops at festivals, which is obviously promoting Nonsuch as well. So, you a very important part of Nonsuch.
Thank you. So our hour is nearly up, and I don't know if I've saved the best till last, but I think I've saved the most pertinent contribution till last because of the words of the song, Thousands or More, which Ken and Sandy are going to do for us in a minute. If you read the words, it says, "The time passes o'er, more cheerful and gay, since we've learnt a new act to drive sorrows away." And I think that's what the club, means. We've all learnt. We've learnt to socialise together and play the dulcimer, make music, and that's also what Make Music Day is. That's why we've chosen this day to launch this video and talk about some of our history, because music is what binds us, and the friendship that we've gained from music. And I'd say that for myself more than anybody, I've made so many friends through Nonsuch, and lifelong friends. So Ken and Sandy, are you there?
We are here, thank you very much.
2 memories from us. The first one goes back probably the 1990s, could have been the 80s. Jim Cusa was a guest at the Nook Folk Club in Home Firth, and it was a very small room, and people were having to climb out of the window if they wanted to go to the bar. And the second memory is the early 2000s, when we had the good fortune to know Jenny Coxon, and we negotiated that you would come and visit us on a very cold, damp February weekend and have winter warmer with us. And we have very, very many happy memories of, being with you, I suppose. Didn't dream I would own a dulcimer in those days, but here we are. Anyway, thousands or more.
In those days, the guest house was ringing with dulcimer music. We had an enormous entrance hall, and there was music in the hall, up on the landing, in the dining room, everywhere, down in the basement as well. So many happy memories of those. I think it was 3 or 4 years, Jenny, that the winter warmer took place at Ascot Lodge in York. So here we are, thousands or more. The time passes over, more cheerful and gay, since we found a new act to drive sorrows away. Sorrows away, sorrows away. sorrows away. Since we found a new act to drive sorrows away. If you ask for my credit, you'll find I have none. With my bottle and friend, you will find me at home. Find me at home. Find me at home. Find me at home. With my bottle and friend, you will find me at home. Bright Phoebe awakes so high up in the sky, with her red rosy cheek and her sparkling eye. Sparkling eye, sparkling eye, sparkling eye. With her red rosy cheek and her sparkling eye. Although I'm not rich and although I'm not poor, I'm as happy as those that's got thousands or more. Thousands or more. Thousands or more. Thousands or more. I'm as happy as those that's got thousands or more. Thousands or more. Thousands or more. Thousands or more. I'm as happy as those that's got thousands or more. Thousands or more. The Copper Family, Rottingdean. Thank you.
And so ends the formal proceedings for our launch. We've had the video once. I think if you want to see it again, you can trot off to YouTube and you should be able to see it from now on. If people want to stay and chat for a few minutes, that's fine, but I'm going to turn the recording off.